ho, ho. Merry Christmas early. As you can see, if you can see TJ's dog in the back, the ho, ho, ho came out and he stood up because he knew Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town. I am Chief. This is TJ. It's the pre-lock show over the weekend. We've got some 4:30 football, some 8 p.m. football. That's Eastern Standard Time, by the way. And TJ, 2 games on a Saturday, which means we got a 2-game slate. Showdown for 4:30, excuse me. A showdown for Buffalo and the Chargers, which I'm super excited about. And my good friend from Agents Defender, we're on together. And we're going to be back tomorrow. So you guys should make some money this weekend. TJ, how are you doing, sir?
Doing well. Yeah, we've been so hot on these pre-lock shows that we're running it back-to-back days, 4 different slates, technically, if we're covering 3 different ones today, plus the showdown tomorrow. So really exciting stuff. Football has kind of taken over the holiday weekend. I'm not mad about it. I'm enjoying it. My Sunday evening football plans now are basically going to be play some board games in front of the TV with the wonderful Baltimore Ravens and San Francisco 49ers game. And then maybe if that game is in commercials a little bit, I can flip to some NBA. So I always like watching NBA on Christmas Day. Now we get NFL there as well. Makes it a lot more enjoyable. And then, hey, for those who aren't celebrating Christmas, you're just enjoying the holidays, enjoying the weekend. You get a little bit something extra to do over that time as well. So it's pretty exciting, and I'm ready to dive in. Hopefully, we can make some money.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So for me, let's hop right in this thing because no time like the present. And I'm going to get the elephant out of the room very quickly. We are not playing Mason Rudolph today, are we? I don't think so, but I mean, the price is so cheap, you may consider it, TJ. So that's where I think Mason Rudolph has some allure, if you will. But I'm personally not playing any Mason Rudolph in terms of DFS. Now, in prop streets, I've got some unders on him at pass attempt, so I hope they just run the ball the whole game. I've got some unders on pass completions. I hope he can't complete the ball to anyone. And really, I probably should be taking unders on the receiver's yards as well. But I prefer to just get my unders through Rudolph. Story for another day. TJ, how are we feeling at quarterback here on the 2-game slate? I don't really want to play Rudolph, but I think at 4,800, some people may think it's interesting.
Both on DraftKings and FanDuel, I just see no need to do it. I'm not playing any Mason Rudolph. Yes, he's cheap, but I don't really need that salary. The most expensive receiver, like the second most expensive receiver to Diggs on this slate is T. Higgins. The most expensive running back, what do we got here? Is it Eckler? Yeah, Austin Eckler at 7,200. We don't need that salary. I don't see any reason not to play Josh Allen today. He's going to be 50% owned, but I think there's merit that if you're running 150 lineups to just say, hey, I'm going to play 150 with Josh Allen. And I'm only going to compete with 50% of the field because you don't need that salary. It's so easy to get to him. It's not difficult by any means. There's so many different lineup constructions you can use with him. I'm comfortable playing 3 Bengals pass catchers with Josh Allen instead of Jake Browning. Now, the one thing, because it's a 2-game slate, you can leave a lot of salary on the table if you want. So that would actually be the way that I'd consider playing Jake Browning today. I don't think I need to play Easton Stick either. Theoretically, there's some rushing upside, even though we haven't seen it in the regular season game yet. And I'd be more willing to play him than Mason Rudolph, but I don't need to, so I just wouldn't. Jake Browning, I do think would be interesting, not for even the purpose of spending up at all these other positions, but for the purpose of leaving a bunch of salary on the table with a Bengal stack and say, I think Jake Browning just outscores Josh Allen straight up. And then by leaving all that salary on the table, you're different from everybody else. And if he does outscore Josh Allen, you're going to be looking like you're going to be in a very, very good position. So because I don't need the savings, I'm going heavy on Josh Allen. But I do think playing a Cincinnati stack with Browning with a bunch of salary on the table is a very interesting way to go about tournaments.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I agree 100%. Let me say this. And this is more, I'm going to pose this more as a question than a statement here. how much of you just says, let me just do a Buffalo basically onslaught stack where I take Allen, Cooks, Diggs, and I just play the cheap wide receivers from Cincinnati and then start there. Like, because in theory, what I want to do is I really want to lock in Diggs and Allen for what it's worth. Like, I just feel like they're the two best plays on the slate. So, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Diggs, Cook, Allen. Those are the three guys that I'm looking to primarily build my lineup on around, and then go to these Cincinnati guys for cheap. I think probably the toughest spot on the slate. Like, let's skip running back for a second. Let's go to the wide receiver position. Diggs, Higgins, Josh Palmer, and then these cheap Cincinnati guys like Tyler Boyd, or my favorite thing to do, go all the way down to Trenton Irwin. That to me is a pretty clear set of clear set of guys I like quite a bit. Gabe Davis always has an explosion in him, so if you're playing a lot of lineups, yeah, throw to Gabe Davis in too. Deontay Johnson, he scored a touchdown in I think 3 straight weeks. It absolutely could happen again. You can keep him in the pool. Pickens is in the doghouse, but he can always break one for a long touchdown, so you can keep him in the pool. But Diggs, Higgins, Palmer, and Irwin are the 4 I'm going to be targeting there. I think the toughest spot here is running back. Running back to me is where things get really difficult. So, who else do you like at the receiver position? And then let's take it to running back, because I actually think that's the toughest spot on the slate if not toughest, the most important to get right.
Yeah, I mean, at wide receiver, I mean, do you want to go down to some of these, weird guys like Shakir or Yostavas from Cincinnati? Like, I think you could possibly do that. It might not be necessary today, so that's kind of where I am. Like Allen Robinson, God, he's dusty. He's probably going to have 2 catches for 10 yards or something like that. But I really think we can stick with the main receivers today. I don't think we have to get overly creative, TJ. I just think if you're playing Diggs, who's obviously going to be the guy today, if you've got enough Diggs, Higgins, and what I consider to be Tyler Boyd because of the price, then at that point it's just sprinkling in the other guys, Pickens, Palmer, Johnson, because I don't feel like I know where all of the other production is going to come from, even though the projections may be telling us a story and the county stats projections may be telling us a story. I know Rudolph is bad, but that doesn't mean one of these guys won't pop and the rest won't. So I'm really not thrilled about loading up on Pittsburgh receivers like together. You know what I'm saying? I'd prefer to just have one and leave it at that in a couple of lineups, or a handful of lineups. So that's where I am at receiver. You talked about running back, or you want to go to running back. I think what we're going to figure out is the James Cook emergence real, right? Like, we saw him pick up all these rushing attempts. And I did check. There's been 2 or 3 other weeks where he's had 15, 16, 17 rushing attempts within the past 4 weeks. So it's not like last week against the Cowboys was the first time he got he got a more heavy workload against the Cowboys, but I think he still ends up in the 17 to 18 carry range. I think the interesting spot for me at running back is Joe Mixon, ironically, because out of the top group of running backs in terms of the more expensive ones, he's the lowest projected in terms of ownership. But I think he's going to get close to equal volume of these guys in a game where they should win as long as they play okay on the road. So we've got Eckler projected for 50%, James Cook for 62%. Mixon is 37%, Warren 38%, Najee Harris 30%. That's what stood out to me at running back. I want to get in Joe Mixon, even though it feels like he lets us down every week.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I think Mixon is definitely interesting in this spot. The part that I'm struggling with is not only do I like Mixon, but I also like Chase Brown. I really do like James Cook, and I think that emergence is real. But not only do we have Latavius Murray to contend with,
I know. Leonard
Fournette is
signing.
active.
I know.
Leonard Fournette is active for this game today on the active roster. I think we'll have to still officially wait and see if he's for surely suiting up, but he did get activated today, so we're expecting him to play. How much does that fall into James Cook? And if this is a situation where, Josh Allen runs in a touchdown, James Cook scores one touchdown, Latavius Murray scores a touchdown, and then Fournette gets all the second half work because they're up 27-0 with 2 field goals added on, and they don't have to play any of their starters in the second half of this one. I'm still aboard James Cook, but I'm slipping in some not only Latavius Murray, but Leonard Fournette as well. And I like Mixon, I'm with you, but I want to play Chase Brown too, because this guy's electric. This guy's basically Devon A-Chain light.
Well, listen, you can play Chase Brown. I sure took his under on rushing yards today, so I hope they just hand him the ball twice. They can throw to him all they want.
That's the thing, though, right? Is he'll probably run the ball 5 times for 27 yards, but he'll catch the ball twice and break off an 80-yard screen pass for a touchdown.
Listen, I don't mind it. I don't mind him breaking it as long as it doesn't take away from my good friend Mr. Tyler Boyd. I need him to catch everything today. Or a lot. Let me say that. So just get me 4 catches and about 40 yards receiving, and you're good, Mr. Boyd. You can go and you've done your job for the day. But yeah, I honestly, I don't hate that call, TJ. I mean, they have shown a willingness to get him involved at 4,900. He probably is the most sneaky out of the cheap bunch. I only got him projected around 7%. 8%. And I'm with you there. I definitely think this is a spot where he can catch a couple passes, and hopefully that's how he gets his fantasy points. One more quick question here for you, TJ, at the running back position. How are you feeling about hold on one second. Anthony said thoughts on Trenton Irwin. Anthony, I'm not really big on Trenton Irwin in DFS. Love him in the prop scene today. If you can get him, I was able to get him at 10.5 receiving yards. Where some places he's 15, 16. So that's how I got my exposure to Trenton Irwin. Not really.
For what it's worth, I really like over 15.5. That's where I got him on Prize Picks, more than 15.5 on Prize Picks. I like that quite a bit for Irwin there as well. That's 10.5. That's crazy though. I love that you got that. I do like him for DFS. 3K today, I think, is really nice. We've seen him be far more involved without Jamar Chase. So I do actually have some interest in Trenton Irwin today.
No problem. Quick question for you. Still at running back here. What's your read on Jaylen Warren versus Najee Harris? Not necessarily we have to play one or the other, but just how are you feeling about them as a group for DFS today? Feels like with Rudolph, as long as this game doesn't get out of control, they should try to run the ball a bit more. What are your thoughts here on the difference between Warren and Najee Harris?
I don't like either of them. And so the reason I don't is because, obviously projected ownership is very frail. It's very fragile on a 2-game slate, right? All it takes is a little bit of groupthink where people go, oh, I don't want to play that high ownership. I want to play this low-owned guy. And all of a sudden the low-owned guy isn't low-owned anymore. But based on what we're projecting right now, with Harris and Warren in a pretty close to an even split, 40% for Warren, 30% for Harris. In GPPs, I would way rather just go to Chase Brown, Latavius Murray, or even, call me crazy, Leonard Fournette, because that last game, it's a 12.5-point spread. The Chargers have looked terrible. The Bills are playing their best football of the season. I think this one is going to be a blowout, and I think their running backs are going to continue to do what their running backs have been doing. I don't think it's crazy to think that Latavius Murray or Jaylen outscores Jaylen Warren or Najee Harris straight up. Same with Chase Brown. And so I'm actually looking to fully fade those guys today in tournaments.
Okay. Don't hate it at all. Let's move over to tight end for the 2-game slate. I do have a favorite tight end that I like, TJ. I'll chime in after you. Who's your favorite tight end today? And then how do you want to continue to build from here?
So I have two that I'm really drawn to today. And the first one that I've been on all week is Gerald Everett as my favorite guy by a fairly wide margin. I love
Well,
that
that's my
35.
favorite. So you go ahead and talk, and I'll chime in if you don't say something I wouldn't say.
Yeah, so like Gerald Everett is the guy today. No Keenan Allen, still no Mike Evans. He got 8 targets in his last game, 5 receptions, 41 yards, but you throw a touchdown on there, and that's an absolutely huge game for him. You don't. 9.1, that's still a pretty good score for Everett. I think this is a very good spot where I'm expecting them to come from behind. A lot of dump offs to the tight end. They're not going to be able to do it to Keenan Allen, the usual kind of third down go-to guy. I think that will be Everett today. So he's my favorite, but Tanner Hudson has really creeped up on him to me, and I really like some Tanner Hudson as well. The reason he's creeped up, Irv Smith Jr. is inactive for this one.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means they're only going with, 3 tight ends instead of 4, Mitchell Wilcox, Drew Sample, and Tanner Hudson. But Hudson will be the clear receiving guy now with Sample and Wilcox out there mostly for blocking without Irv Smith. That should open up Hudson as kind of having the full receiving tight end role, because he was getting a really good target share before, but his snap count wasn't that great because he was sharing with so many guys. Without Irv Smith, if the target share stays the same with the additional playing time, this should be an absolute smash game for Tanner Hudson.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't hate Tanner Hudson at all. I mean, he's 3,600, Everett's 35. I think we play them both, and I think Hudson's going to be involved today in the passing game. He's been involved even with Chase there, so I don't see him suddenly falling off of a cliff. At least I hope he doesn't fall off a cliff, and I hope this offense continues to thrive today, TJ, because the offense has been able to score points and put up yards, and I think that's how, when we're talking about scoring fantasy points, TJ, that's what we want. We want productive offenses. That's that. I mean, I don't know how you're feeling about defense on this slate. I don't really care. Like, none of them are over 4K. I think most people are probably going to play Bills or Bengals, and that's what it's looking like. But we do have some people playing the Steelers and a small handful playing the Chargers. Honestly, TJ, I say just spin the wheel, take your pick, whoever fits, throw them in there, and let's go. Does it feel like the Bengals or the Bills are probably the best considering the quarterback play? Absolutely. Like, the Bengals may have the best one, but all in all, I think you maybe outside of the Chargers, who could still have a scoring touchdown, just go ahead and play whoever you want.
Yeah, agree there completely. Is if they fit your lineup, great. If you got to go to all the way down to the Chargers to make it work, that's fine. They're low owned. Josh Allen turns it over sometimes. It's such a random position. It's no problem at all to do that. We still have 26 minutes until lock, so a long time here. Do you want to hit the first game showdown slate before we get to some QQs?
Yeah, absolutely, TJ. You can go ahead and plug in your thoughts. This is the first game showdown, Cincinnati versus Pittsburgh. So now we're swapping over. So let's kind of shift our minds. We were talking 2-game slate. Now we're talking showdown. TJ, well, kick it over to you. What's kind of your favorite play on this showdown today? At captain, let's start at captain and work our way down. So at captain, who's your favorite captain today for the showdown?
So I'm just building one lineup and some small field stuff. So with that in mind, I am just going with Jake Browning today. I think he's the raw points top option. He's not even the most expensive play on the slate. Both Mixon and T. Higgins are more expensive than him. I think optimally speaking, he's the guy. In terms of getting different in some tournament lineups, though, some lower projectedly owned guys, I think Joe Mixon is without a doubt the top potential guy here at the captain position in larger field stuff. 5% projected owned at the captain. That is very, very low for a guy who could easily be the highest scorer on this slate. So small field stuff, optimally speaking, Jake Browning would be my guy. Larger field stuff, Joe Mixon. Deontay Johnson, I think, is fine too. If you want to plug him in there, a nice cheap option. And look, you're never going to get both a combination of a cheaper and a lower owned quarterback captain than Mason Rudolph here. So if you want to play Rudolph for the captain in a large field GPP, I think that's okay too, because he's so cheap and so low owned.
Absolutely. I love it. I get it. I think for me at captain in this game, I do want to kind of get it through kind of, let's call it the way I think about this game, TJ. I feel like the quarterback play is going to be bad for the Steelers today with Mason Rudolph. I don't see a whole lot of production coming from him, but I do think if they can keep the game close, the running game will continue to pop off for the Steelers. With that being said, I also think the Cincinnati passing game is one that obviously we can utilize. I don't hate Tyler Boyd here. Tyler Boyd is one of my favorite plays because I feel like he's too cheap for the situation, TJ. And that's kind of where I'm landing here at captain. I like him at 9,600, understanding that T. Higgins is the big play guy. But I mean, we're getting a 10% discount on Tyler Boyd at the captain, and we're getting a almost a $7,000 discount at in terms of price. So by plugging Boyd in there, I can still get T. Higgins. If I plug in Boyd at the captain, still get T. Higgins in the flex, TJ. I can still get Browning in the flex, and I still feel comfortable. Like I don't feel like, oh my gosh, I'm running out of salary here, because just by getting those three in, as constructed the way I talked about, you're getting Boyd and Captain Higgins and Browning. You're getting those guys. You still got $6,000 worth of salary left, and that's really going to leave you some pretty interesting pieces to plug in on the back end. You can still get, if you wanted to plug in the Bengals defense as an example. I don't necessarily want to plug in the Bengals defense, but if you wanted to, you could get them in. That's 5,200. That brings you up to 7,200. And then if for some reason you decide, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and plug Tanner Hudson in here too. You get that, and then that leaves you 9,800. You can plug in, one of the Steelers receivers. There's just a lot of things you can do, I think, by getting Tyler Boyd at captain. So he's one of my favorites today at that position, because what it does for you on the back end in the flex. We've got Red CYC Sports, and it could be Red Chick, could be Red Sick. Just kind of give me the dictionary explanation there on that screen. And he said, come on, guys, got to play Rudolph on a Christmas slate. Obviously, good timing there, brother. Love that, brother or sister. Love that one. And but I don't like Rudolph today, and I don't think he's going to be guiding any Steelers slaves to a win. TJ, back over to you, sir.
Yeah, so I'm with you. My big guys that I want to get to at the flex position today: Tanner Hudson at 4,600, Chase Brown 5,600, and then Trenton Irwin. I am a little bit higher on him today, and so at 1,600, I think he's a nice cheap play here. I'm mostly doing these Bengals onslaught, so Mixon or Browning is my captain. I'm mixing in some T. Higgins, and then those cheapies that I talked about: Irwin, Hudson, Chase Brown. My favorite run back here to use on, like I said, most of my lineups are 5-1s or 4-2s. So my favorite run back here is Deontay Johnson by a fairly wide margin. I think he's the most likely player to score points for Pittsburgh. He typically gets so many targets. We don't know that it'll be the case with Rudolph, but he typically gets so many targets that even if they don't score any points, he could still catch eight balls and end up being optimal tonight. And so Johnson would be my first choice, Warren number 2. And then Najee, I don't really want to play him, but he is so darn cheap, so I'd be fine with doing him as well. What should we there's still so much time. So before we even start taking QQs, let's hit that final Buffalo versus Chargers showdown game. Oh, you are on mute, my friend.
Yes, I was, TJ. So sorry about that. God, I hate when I make the rookie mistake of keeping myself muted as I'm coming back in to speak. But what I will say is, to me, this is my favorite game of the night, TJ, mainly because I feel like with and look, this is just me thinking outside of the box, okay? So, folks, this isn't statistical analysis. All right, we'll get to the statistical analysis. This is me thinking outside of the box. Last week, we saw the Buffalo Bills basically win a game the ugly way. And it wasn't ugly for them. I think they were having fun. But Josh Allen basically just turned around and handed the ball off to Mr. Cooks the whole game. Most of the game, only threw it 15 times. This isn't that situation to me this week, TJ. This is a situation where the Los Angeles Chargers give up so many yards through the air. And I don't feel like Josh Allen is going to have to take chances to get there. I think he can just do it in a regular style of play. Still run the ball, but I think the passing game will be front and center today as they're facing the Chargers. They're on the road. They're in the dome. And TJ, we've just seen so many quarterbacks play the Chargers, walk into their stadium, in their own stadium, just light this secondary up. I think we see that from the Buffalo Bills today. I think Josh Allen goes for 250 plus, couple touchdowns at least. I think Stephon Diggs has a thank you for getting me the ball game. Not that he's going to get it every game now, because I think they've had some form of a philosophy change. But I think in this game, TJ, they can push the ball down the field, and I think they're going to be able to get that done. So the reason I love it so much is we know mostly where the production is going to come from. It's Allen. I think it's Diggs, even though for the past few weeks he's been very limited. I think it's Allen. I think it's Diggs. I think it's Cooks. And I think there will be a sprinkle from some of the other wide receivers. At captain, my favorite captain, no surprise here. It's going to be one of Allen, Diggs, or Cook. I think you take those three, you just split them up, and you go from there. I do understand that from a captain perspective, with the other guys being so cheap on the Charger side, like Palmer, like Quentin. I mean, you could just do so many things if you just played a Charger at captain. But I think one of these guys from Buffalo is the optimal captain. I just don't see somebody from the Chargers outscoring any of those three. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you that I think they're definitely the most likely to be optimal. Josh Allen or James Cook would be my primary two. Not Diggs for me, just because I feel like even if Diggs scores, that I just think Buffalo is going to be up by so many points in this game. I think if Diggs is scoring, it's not going to be accompanied with Chargers scoring. It'll be accompanied with more Buffalo scoring on the ground. So I would rather go with Josh Allen or James Cook there. I do have some interest, though, in going with either maybe an Easton Stick at the captain position because he is cheap and low owned. But primarily for me, Gerald Everett. There are so many guys in this game I want to spend up for. Gerald Everett, nice and cheap at the captain position, 2.5% owned. He's my favorite guy to do that with today, to take some shots on, because if we play him at the captain position, we now have over 8,700 remaining for all of our flex plays. So who are the main three we want to play? Allen, Diggs, Cook, the big three today. We put all of them in. Now we still have 5650 per position. We can take two different strategies with the rest of this here. Either go with some Bills defense, the kickers, Gabe Davis, Quentin Johnson, a lot of mid-range plays here that work totally fine to fill out these last two positions. Or you could say, well, if Everett's my captain, I want to milk that correlation, throw Easton Stick in there too because he's cheap enough. And now you have 2,500 for your last position. It would be perfect. It would be just beautiful if you could get Latavius Murray with this lineup. But unfortunately, you can't just quite do it. But taking your choice of Erickson, Guyton, Parham, Darius Davis, Sherfield, Leonard Fournette at $200. All of these are potential options that could fit perfectly nice in that last spot. And it allows you to get the big three for Buffalo. So I'm a big fan of going with the Gerald Everett captain so that I can make sure I get Allen, Diggs, and Cook all in the same lineup.
Folks, you heard it here first. Here comes TJ. I think that's our spicy captain of the night. Usually we get a little spicy. Looks like he's coming right out of the gate. Gerald Everett, spicy captain of the night, coming straight from our good friend, TJ Zwarych. All right, TJ. So we've got that at captain. Let's talk about the flex here. I think for me and for you as well, we definitely want to get these big guns in at the flex. Allen, Diggs, Cook in some capacity. I don't want to. I feel like Gabe Davis has almost been phased out of this offense in, let's see, in a general sense. I'm not saying game to game, because obviously in this game, in terms of yards, he could absolutely have one big 60-yard touchdown. Like that's well within the cards in this particular game. So I don't want to say that won't happen. But I feel like Gabe Davis isn't a lot, but I feel like he's more of a sprinkle at this point. But I do think you need to have him. I think you need to have Khalil Shakir. I just think you need to sprinkle in these Buffalo receivers because you're just not sure which one of these other guys outside of Diggs and Cook are going to have the big game. So I love this spot for them. I don't hate Dalton Kincaid. On the other side, obviously, if I'm not playing Everett at captain, TJ, I will say this. I think Everett's my lock button in the flex. I don't mind getting very aggressive. We've got him at 23%. I'm fine with the lock button on him in the flex because if he continues to get 8 targets like we've seen, TJ, then he should be able to catch 5 or 6 balls here. And so maybe not lock button on Everett, but let me say at least double the field. We've got him around 23%. I don't mind getting to 50% on Everett here. And if he pops off, then I'm way ahead of what the field is doing.
Especially if Donald Parham ends up being out. I think we're expecting him to play, but if he happened to not be dressed for this one, I think that loads up Everett even more because you're not worried about Parham stealing those red zone looks from him.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you 100%. And let's see here. Yeah, at tight end, I think that's mostly it at tight end for me. I think. I don't mind Dawson Knox. And I don't mind Dalton Kincaid. I don't mind running a split. I mean, Dawson Knox is a lot cheaper than Kincaid now. And so do I think Kincaid is going to get some work in this game? Absolutely. Do I think it's going to be slate breaking? No, I don't think it'll be slate breaking, TJ, unless he catches 2 touchdowns. But I think it's worth it to get a sprinkle. Once again, I think there's a huge concentration of Allen, Diggs, Cook, and then sprinkles of all of the other Buffalo Bills and Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, that is how I'm looking to go with it as well today. I mostly planning on just having out my builds here. First game showdown, Bengals onslaught. Second game showdown, Bills onslaught. 2-game slate, tons of Bengals, tons of Bills, going very light on the Steelers. And then I do like the Chargers more as a final run back. One, just because you get that natural late night hammer. It feels a little bit better to not have your lineups dead early on. But more so just because of the amount of injuries they have, it's so much more concentrated. For the Steelers, it could be Najee Harris today. It could be Jaylen Warren. It could be George Pickens. It could be Deontay Johnson. It could be Pat Freiermuth. It could be no one. And all of those outcomes are equally reasonable of happening. For the Chargers, it should be Austin Eckler will get a lot of touches. How productive he'll be with those touches against Buffalo, we don't know. But the main things I'm hoping for are the main things I'm expecting: Joshua Palmer and Gerald Everett. I think those should be two focal points of the offense we can feel pretty confident in.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't hate that at all. I've got one more random question for you here, TJ. And this is kind of hopping back to the Pittsburgh game here, because I know we're hopping back because we've kind of covered this one. But in terms of the Steelers, and I know we're kind of playing for the Cincinnati onslaught, if you will, Cincinnati onslaught. Is there one Steeler, TJ, out of this bunch that you say, man, this is the one guy that could possibly get there out of this game? The one guy. Who would that guy be for you overall? And then, would you be willing to increase his ownership late, hoping that, he's the one guy that has, 5 catches for 80 yards, and maybe everybody else just kind of has 2 catches for 30 or something like that?
Deontay Johnson is probably going to be that guy for me today. Like, he'd be the one Steeler I'd want to mix in either as a run back and showdown or in that 2-game slate because he's nice and cheap too.
Okay. All right, there we go. Well, folks, listen, we're going to start fielding some questions. I'm in the YouTube chat right now, TJ, and we're going to grab this. I'm scrolling back to make sure we caught all the questions. This is, we already talked about Trenton Irwin. This is Derek, DK, GPP, Warren, or Harris. I know you were saying neither. I guess Warren because of the pass catching ability. If I had to choose one, what are your thoughts, TJ?
Yeah, same page. If I'm picking one, it's going to be Jalen Warren as long as I can afford him.
Okay. Carolina guy has 2 questions, kind of a 2-part, if you will. Ask them back to back. So we're just going to make it a 2-part question. This is for you, TJ. FanDuel GPP favorite low-owned play. And then how much money are we leaving on the table on FanDuel as well?
I don't think you need to go out of your way to leave a lot of money on the table but because it's a 2-game slate, like if you have a build you're comfortable with and you like, I don't think there is an amount of money that's like bad to leave on the table because like as long as it's a tournament, I don't think the limit exists today. You can do whatever you want. In terms of my favorite low owned play in a FanDuel GPP, I'm just I'm switching my browser over to FanDuel right now just to double check the ownership. But I think I would probably say Chase Brown.
Okay. All right. Don't hate that. And then this is favorite FanDuel MVP for large field tournaments. And I'm assuming, obviously, if we're talking about MVP, then we're going with the single game slates. For me, TJ, if it's the Cincinnati game, I'm probably going Browning. If it's the I'm probably going Browning or Mixon for what it's worth on FanDuel. And then something similar on FanDuel is probably Allen or Cook for me in the MVP spot. What about you?
Yeah, Allen or Cook probably in the MVP spots. Probably Cook would be my favorite guy to go with in the tournament.
Okay. And then Leonard Fournette on DK. I don't want to do it because I don't know what his role is going to be on the team. I don't even understand why he would have a role, considering they've got Cook and Latavius Murray who have been fine, and now he's just showing up. I don't.
That's exactly why I want to do it. That's exactly why I want to do it because we have no idea what's going to be going on here, and I want to embrace that uncertainty in tournaments. Now, I'm not doing it a lot, but I'm just going to be building a lineup with Leonard Fournette in the main slate, and then a lineup with Leonard Fournette in the showdown.
Gotcha. This is coming from Alan S. Eckler, thoughts on DK GPP, not on showdown. So specifically GPP. I don't hate it because I do like the Bills in this game, like especially for me when I want to get in Allen and Diggs. I don't mind running it back with Eckler. Like really, we just need Eckler to catch more passes because the rushing I don't think is going to be there because I believe they will be behind in this game. But generally speaking, I don't hate it. What about you?
I'm not getting there. I just like spending my salary elsewhere. I have a tough time thinking he's going to have a strong game today. They just haven't shown the willingness to unleash him in the passing game, even without Keenan Allen. I kind of thought that would be the key. Maybe that changes tonight. Then if it does, you're going to want to have him. But I'm personally going without Eckler today.
Absolutely. I got it. Look, TJ, I don't see any more questions here in the YouTube chat. I'm going to check the live stream chat and just make sure we don't have anything in there that people want to ask. Yep, I don't see anything, so I think we're good. Folks, we're going to shut this thing down because guess what? TJ and I will be right back to work tomorrow, folks. No rest for the weary. We're not taking time off to provide you great content. We will be back tomorrow for the late night Sunday night football showdown slate. We appreciate you guys for joining us. We'll see all our fluffy stuff tomorrow. Got the Christmas cheer in the background. Loving this. Man, I'm so excited about the holiday, spending it with my family. And folks, you have a great night of football. I'm Chief. That's TJ. This has been the Pre-Lock Show. We'll see you tomorrow.